I remember the way people used to stand when I entered a room. Not out of fear, though maybe a little, but out of respect. Colonel Richard Lawson, U.S. Marine Corps. 3 tours in Iraq. 2 in Afghanistan. Bronze Star, Silver Star. A man you shook hands with firmly. A man you didn't lie to. My son used to introduce me like that at cookouts. This is my dad. The toughest son of a bitch you'll ever meet. He used to say it with pride. His friends would nod. Sir, they'd say. Always sir. I hated that word in civilian life, but I let it slide. Now I sit on a plastic-covered mattress in a room that smells like bleach and boiled peas. There's a buzzer I can press when I need help. No one comes. I tried pressing it once when I fell, just tripped trying to put on socks. Laid there for an hour. When a nurse finally showed up, she sighed. You really should be more careful, Mr. Lawson. Colonel, I corrected her. She didn't even look up. It was my son, Daniel, who left me here. After the second fall at home, he said, Dad, we can't do this anymore. I heard his wife whispering in the kitchen. He's going to break a hip and sue us. Or worse. He's a liability. A liability. I stormed out, cane in hand, my knees aching like hell, and shouted, I fought in Fallujah. I was shot in the chest and dragged a man twice my size to cover. I buried more brothers than I can count, and you're telling me I'm a liability? They stared at me like I was a child throwing a tantrum. 2 weeks later, I was here. They called it Oak Haven Assisted Living. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? It's a prison with throw pillows. The staff are young. They call me Mr. Rick. That's what you call a friendly neighbor, not a man who bled for this country. They smile too wide. Talk to me like I'm 5. How are we feeling today, Mr. Rick? We're a little grumpy, aren't we? No, we're furious, Jessica. We're lonely, Marcus. We're dying more and more every morning we wake up in this goddamn chair. I used to wake up at 0500, make coffee, run 3 miles, and read the paper before most people brush their teeth. Now I wake up to the sound of a cart squeaking down the hallway and someone pushing the door open without knocking. They don't even say good morning. I'm invisible here. Once, I asked if Daniel or the kids had called. The nurse looked at her clipboard and shrugged. Nope. Maybe next week? They always say maybe next week. Next week hasn't come in 6 months. Every night, I stare at the medals above my bed. Bronze Star. Silver Star. Purple Heart. They're clean. Polished. Hung straight. They're the only things here that still remember who I am. But they're quiet now. They don't speak up for me. No one does. The walls in Oak Haven are thin. I can hear the man next door cough every morning, sharp, wet, like he's tearing something loose inside. There's a woman across the hall who screams in her sleep. They say her name is Mabel. She doesn't remember it most days. We're a hallway of echoes. Forgotten names, dry throats, plastic smiles. People walk past our doors like we're not even here. When I first arrived, I kept waiting for Daniel to visit. Every day, I combed what little hair I had left, shaved with trembling hands, sprayed cologne from a bottle half-used back in 1998. I even set out a second chair by the window. I imagined he'd walk in with that fake laugh he picked up in business school. Hey, Dad. Sorry it's been so long. Work's been crazy. I'd grunt something, then we'd sit. Maybe talk about football. Or his son, my grandson Ethan. The one I used to carry on my shoulders every 4th of July. I bought him his first baseball glove. He cried when I left after Christmas one year, held my hand so tight I thought it'd break. Now, I don't even know his voice anymore. They don't call. Not even on my birthday. Last week, one of the nurses left my chart open at the foot of my bed. I wasn't supposed to see it. But I did. Under family contact. Rarely visits. Low engagement. Only reachable by email. Low engagement. Like I'm a Facebook post they scrolled past. I met a man here named Thomas. 81. Used to be a history professor at Penn State. Sharp as a tack, despite the tremors in his hands. We'd play chess every Thursday in the rec room. One night, I found him sitting outside, staring at the moon. He looked tired in a way that no nap could fix. He said, "Rick, you ever feel like your life already ended, and they just forgot to tell you?" I nodded. I didn't have the heart to say what I was really thinking. I don't feel dead. I feel buried alive. That night, I took out my old medals. Held them one by one. Bronze Star. Operation Phantom Fury. Fallujah. I watched a 19-year-old kid bleed out in my arms. Still remember the way he said, "Tell my mom I tried." I did. I wrote her the letter myself. She wrote back. Said I saved her boy's soul. Silver Star. Afghanistan, 2006. We were ambushed. I crawled through sand and blood to reach a man pinned under a burning Humvee. I dislocated my shoulder lifting him. I was 30 pounds lighter when I came home. My wife said I looked haunted. She was right. My wife, Carol, died 5 years ago. Breast cancer. Took her in 7 months. Fast. Cruel. She would have never let them put me here. She would have raised hell, threatened lawsuits, stormed into that sterile white kitchen of Daniel's and read him like a drill sergeant. But without her, I'm just noise. The kids listen to me like they're humoring a ghost. Sure, Dad. Okay, Dad. We'll visit soon. Then silence. They think I don't know. That I've gone soft in the head. That I don't remember. But I do. I remember every diaper I changed, every night I stayed up when Daniel had the flu, every busted knee I patched, every science fair I clapped at even though he only made a vinegar volcano. I remember when he cried because he struck out in Little League, and I told him, the only thing that matters is that you stand back up. Funny, isn't it? He taught me how to fall. And I taught him how to leave someone behind. I've stopped asking if they're coming. Let them forget. I'm starting to remember myself. Something's shifting in me. Something quiet, but sharp. Like the first click of a safety being turned off. I'm done begging to be seen. I stopped waiting for the phone calls. Stopped checking the calendar for birthdays, holidays, or whatever excuse they'd use to silence their guilt. I folded the calendar up. Threw it in the trash. Started keeping track of time by my own rhythm. I eat when I want. I sleep when I can. And every morning now, before the nurses shuffle in with their pills and fake smiles, I do 10 push-ups beside the bed. My elbows ache. My lungs burn. I still do them. Why? Because I can. And every morning I do, I hear Carol's voice in my ear. You're not done yet, Rick. It started small. One morning, a new kid on staff, barely 20, rolled in and started talking to me like I was 5. Well, hey there, Mr. Rick. How are we feeling this morning, huh? Did we sleep good, champ? I stared at him until the smile peeled off his face. Son, I said, you ever address me like a puppy again, and I'll have you crying for your mother. He blinked. Then said, yes, sir. Sir. There it was again. But this time, not from pity. Not even respect. From recognition. He saw me. Word got around. The man in room 207 wasn't as soft in the head as they thought. He wasn't interested in bingo or pudding cups. He was interested in chess, in silence, in looking you in the eyes and daring you to blink. I started walking the halls again. Slowly, cane in hand, but upright. People moved aside when they saw me. Some nodded. Some avoided my gaze. I didn't care. I wasn't here to be liked. Thomas passed away 2 weeks ago. Heart failure, they said. Died in his sleep. They cleared out his room like he was furniture. I waited 3 days. No service. No family. No one even said his last name. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I pulled out my dress blues. Still folded tight in my old duffel. Pressed the jacket, polished the buttons, slid my feet into the stiff black shoes with the cracked soles. I walked into the cafeteria. Every head turned. I stood straight as a rifle. And said, his name was Thomas Elijah Pierce. He taught history. He loved chess. And he died without anyone remembering him. I looked each of them in the eyes. I remember. And that's not nothing. Then I turned. Walked out. That night, I found a note under my door. A woman on the 3rd floor. Used to be a nurse in Detroit. Wants to talk. Her name is Louise. 86. Still sharp. Smokes 1 cigarette a day by the generator behind the building when the nurses aren't watching. We started talking. First about her husband. Then about books. Then about how this place kills you long before your body gives up. She said, most of these people just want to be looked in the eye. I nodded. She said, you look 'em in the eye, Rick. They listen. So I started listening too. To the stories. To the anger. To the things no one else asked about. Harold in room 302? Used to be a jazz drummer. Clara in 105? Lost her husband in Vietnam and never remarried. Even Marcus, the orderly? Dropped out of college to take care of his sick mother. I listened. And when I spoke, I didn't ask about medication or pain. I asked, what did you love? And they talked. Because finally, someone treated them like they still existed. Daniel called yesterday. First time in 6 months. I let it ring. Let it go to voicemail. When I finally played the message, his voice was tight. Nervous. Hey, Dad. Just wanted to check in. Ethan's starting college this fall. I know it's been a while. Maybe we could talk? Talk? Where was this voice when I cried alone on my birthday? When I spent Christmas staring at a blank screen? I didn't delete the message. But I didn't call back. Not yet. There's strength in silence. In waiting without begging. In standing alone without asking someone to join you. They thought they buried me. But I was growing roots. And now I'm not just surviving. I'm building something. There's a thing in the Marines called a formation. You stand together. Shoulders square. Eyes forward. No one speaks unless told to. It's not about being seen, it's about being counted. Accounted for. Alive. I hadn't stood in formation in over a decade. Until I made one myself. It started with Harold, the jazz drummer. He hadn't left his room in weeks. Said his knees were shot and his daughter stopped calling after he asked for money. Every day, he stared at the ceiling fan like it might give him answers. I knocked once, stepped inside, and said, "Get up." He blinked. "I can't." "You can. You just haven't." He chuckled, like I was crazy. But the next morning, he showed up in the common room with a walker. Said, "I figured I'd at least come hear you yell at someone." That made me smile. Then came Clara. Then Louise. Then Eugene with the oxygen tank. Then May from 108, who used to teach poetry in New York. One by one, the forgotten started sitting taller. Started shaving. Fixing their hair. Asking questions. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They were remembering they were people. Every Wednesday now, we meet in the old rec room. I call it the last formation. No bingo. No TV. We talk. Real talk. About pain. About regret. About kids who never visit, lovers long gone, memories that flicker like old films. We laugh. We curse. We cry. And when someone doesn't show up, we knock on their damn door and say, "You're missed." Because no one here disappears without someone noticing anymore. The staff don't know what to make of it. One nurse pulled me aside and said, "You've got them stirred up, Mr. Lawson." I said, "Good. Maybe they'll remember they still have blood in their veins." And then Daniel showed up. Unannounced. I was playing chess with Eugene. He walked in holding a coffee he didn't offer to share. "Hey, Dad," he said, like nothing had ever happened. "Thought I'd stop by." I looked up. "Why?" He blinked. I just thought you might want to see Ethan's college acceptance letter." He slid it across the table. Like a peace offering. Top of the letter. "Welcome to Stanford University." I nodded. He's smart. Good for him. Daniel waited. Probably for a thank you. Or maybe a hug. I said nothing. Finally, he said, "Look, I know we haven't been great. We thought this place would be better for you. Safer." "You thought it would shut me up," I said, calm as water. "You thought you could put me somewhere quiet, where I wouldn't remind you of what you owe." He swallowed. "Dad, come on. It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" I asked. He didn't answer. I stood up. Looked him in the eye. "You left me here to rot. And I found something better." He frowned. "Better?" "Yes. Purpose. People who see me. Who still need me." "You're saying you don't need us anymore?" I looked past him, to the hallway where Louise was helping May with her walker. "No," I said. "I'm saying I finally stopped waiting for you to remember who I am." He left without saying goodbye. Didn't even take the letter back. I placed it on the bulletin board in the common room. "Ethan Lawson," it reads, "Stanford University." I told Louise, no matter what they do, I want that boy to know I'm proud of him. She nodded. Then added, "But let them earn your forgiveness, Rick. Don't hand it out like candy." That night, someone knocked on my door. It was Marcus, the orderly I once snapped at. He stood awkwardly, holding a folder. I heard what you said. About being seen. I nodded. He said, my mom passed last year. I never got to say what I meant to. I think that's why I work here. He paused. Would it be okay if I came to the next meeting? Just to listen? I opened the door wider. Everyone has ghosts, son, I said. Come sit with ours. They thought I came here to die. But I came here to lead. Not with rank. Not with medals. With silence. With listening. With memory. With truth. A month passed. No calls. No visits. No letters from Daniel. Not even a forwarded email. And strangely, I no longer cared. Not because I stopped loving my family, but because I stopped chasing their love like a starving dog. Something changed in me when I saw the way these people sat straighter now, walked slower but prouder, laughed louder. The last formation had grown. 12 people now. We even gave each other ranks, jokingly. Harold? Sergeant of Sass. May? Corporal of Cookies, she bakes when her hands allow. Me? They insisted on calling me the General. Not for war, but because they saw that I stood for something again. One Wednesday, after our usual gathering, a young woman stopped by. She was quiet, polite, holding a notepad. I'm writing a piece, she said. About dignity in elder care. I've heard about your meetings. I almost laughed. You want to write about a bunch of old fogies swapping war stories and dead regrets? She smiled. I want to write about people remembering themselves. She sat in on one of our meetings. Listened. Took notes. Didn't interrupt once. When it was over, she asked if she could take a picture. We said no. Some moments aren't for display. But she wrote the article. And 3 days later, the director of Oak Haven called me into his office. His name's Cooper. Slick hair. Young. Probably never missed a TikTok trend in his life. He tapped a copy of the local paper on his desk. Front page. The last formation, how one man sparked a movement of memory. Below it, a photo of our door. Room 207. My nameplate. I didn't authorize this, he said. Neither did I said. But I stand by every word. He looked at me differently then. Like a man trying to figure out if the old engine still has oil in it. Finally, he said, we're going to expand the program. Officially. Maybe across all our homes. I nodded. You should. People die faster when they're forgotten. Then he asked me something I didn't expect. Would you speak at the staff orientation next month? I blinked. Why? He said, because no one listens like you do. And frankly, they respect you more than they respect us. That night, I sat alone in the garden. Cold air in my lungs. My knees throbbed. My hands shook. But inside? Steel. I whispered, Carol, they finally heard me. A wind swept through the leaves like a response. Not loud. But there. 3 days later, Daniel called again. I answered this time. His voice cracked. I read the article, he said. Silence. Then. I didn't know they called you the General. They don't, I replied. They call me Rick. That's enough. He exhaled. I guess I never really saw you that way. I always saw you as someone who would be fine, no matter what. Strong men break too, I said. He said, I'm sorry. I nodded. I know. Then added. You're not forgiven yet. But you're heard. He asked if he and Ethan could visit next week. I said yes. Then I hung up and stared at the phone for a while. Not crying. Not smiling. Just breathing. Later that night, Louise knocked. She said, "Got a second?" I nodded. She walked in, holding a piece of paper. My daughter sent this. First time in years. On the paper, a drawing. Childlike. Crayon. Grandma, I miss you. Mommy says I can visit soon. I drew you a cat. Louise folded it carefully. Looked at me. You think it's too late for people like us? I shook my head. No. But it's just in time. And so we keep going. One Wednesday at a time. One knock at a door. One story. One name remembered. The medals on my wall? They still shine. But the real honor now? Is the way May looks at me when she remembers her late husband and thanks me for letting her cry. Or when Eugene finishes a sentence without stuttering and the room erupts in claps. There's no applause. But there is recognition. And that? That's everything. I always thought the end would be loud. Not death. Not yet. But the end of being needed. Of purpose. Of usefulness. I figured it would come like a slammed door, final and echoing. Turns out, it came like a whisper. This morning, I woke before sunrise. Old habit. Made black coffee in the residence kitchenette, none of that flavored nonsense they push now. Just bitter and hot enough to remind me I'm alive. I walked the halls in silence. No walkers creaked. No nurses muttered. Just the click of my cane. Step by step. At the end of the hallway, room 110's door was cracked open. I knocked once, gently. No answer. May had passed in her sleep. Peacefully, they said. I sat by her bed until the staff arrived. Smoothed her hair. Folded her blanket at the foot like she liked it. The nurse cried. I didn't. Because May had been seen every week, every Wednesday, every damn story she told twice. And we had listened. She didn't die invisible. That's all anyone here wants. I went back to my room. Took off the watch Carol gave me when I turned 50. Polished the face. Set it gently on the table. I looked at the mirror. A gaunt man stared back. White hair trimmed. Spine still straight. Eyes sharp, if tired. But not broken. Never again broken. At lunch, the usual table was quiet. Clara put a hand on mine. She whispered, "Thank you for giving us something to show up for." I nodded. Couldn't speak. Later, Louise said she's going to keep the formation going. You're not allowed to die until we promote someone to captain, she joked, lighting her contraband cigarette by the back gate. I laughed. Harder than I had in years. That evening, I sat by the window. Watched the sun bleed orange into the sky. No music. No distractions. Just air. Just light. A knock came at the door. Daniel. And Ethan. I opened the door. No hug. Not yet. But his eyes were red. Ethan stepped forward, awkward in his too big Stanford hoodie. He said, I read your article. They gave it to us in a class. We had to write about leadership. He swallowed. I picked you. I stared. Felt something stirred deep and old. He said, I'm sorry I never called. I didn't know what to say. I looked at him. And then, finally, let it fall away. I'm still here, I said. He sat. Quiet. Then asked, Can I come next Wednesday? To your meeting? I nodded. Daniel said nothing. Just watched. Like he knew this moment wasn't his. They left an hour later. Before he walked out, Ethan turned. And with a little smile, said, Semper Fi, Grandpa. My throat closed. I whispered, Aura. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from pain. From peace. The kind that doesn't shout. Doesn't demand attention. It's the kind that comes when you've been to hell and back. When you've lost everything that mattered. And still chose to matter anyway. They forgot me. They buried me in a facility meant to hold the dying. And I became a mirror. A fire. A flag in the dirt. Not out of revenge. But out of quiet defiance. They don't teach that kind of strength in books. You earn it. Alone. In silence. In loss. In choosing to rise, one more time. Tomorrow is Wednesday. One more meeting. One more story. One more seat filled by someone who thought they were finished. I'll be there. With my cane. With my medals tucked in a drawer. With a pot of real coffee brewing. Because the last formation doesn't march. It remembers. And that's stronger than any army. The end.
Subscribe and like. And tell your friends about this video.